We welcome you to this online session on Facebook and Zoom. The topic of discussion today is the Four Noble Truths of Lord Buddha in Bhagavad Gita. It's quite an interesting topic. Many people don't know much about Lord Buddha. They don't know about his teachings, and also they don't understand how the teachings of Lord Buddha are in many ways similar to the teachings given by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. So today we are going to cover these four teachings called the Four Noble Truths. These are the first teachings that Lord Buddha gave to his students, and we'll be discussing on introductory level who Lord Buddha is, and then these teachings given by him. So some history and then some philosophy. After that, at the end, some practical action. So let me begin with some prayers called Mangala Charana to invoke auspiciousness for the speaker, for the listener, and for the subject matter that we are going to discuss. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurul Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishashanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So let me share the small presentation on this topic. The Four Noble Truths of Lord Buddha, the first teaching given by him. As I said, I would like to first discuss who is Lord Buddha. In Srimad Bhagavatam, which is considered as the cream of all Vedic literatures, meaning the essence of all Vedic literatures, all Vedic knowledge, it's very beautifully explained about the identity of Lord Buddha, who he is, why did he come, what was his mission, and things like that. So as per Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Param Satya, Absolute Truth, he has many, many incarnations, also known as avatars. Avatar means one who descends. Descends from where? Descends from the spiritual realm to the material realm for the purpose of establishing religion. That's the goal. And also a few more things like benefiting those people who are pious, saintly, establishing religion, punishing the miscreants. These are the primary purposes. So Lord Krishna, time and again, he comes down in different forms, and these forms are called avatars. How many avatars are there? Srimad Bhagavatam explains that there are innumerable incarnations of the Supreme Lord. Countless, we cannot count them. As much as there are waves in an ocean. Now, how many waves are there in an ocean? Innumerable waves. The waves come and go, come and go, come and go. And it keeps on happening, and there are so many waves. Like that, in this material creation, the Lord, in his different forms, comes down time and again to establish dharma or religion. In third chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is entitled as Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and a list is presented of the most prominent incarnations of the Lord. Suta Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, gives out that list to the audience, the sages of Naimisharanya. And he says, of all these incarnations, Krishna is the source, the supreme, the most highest form of personality of Godhead. He enlists them and also describes them what were their activities. I'm just going to take their names. First, he speaks about the four Kumaras. Then he speaks of Varaha Avatar, Narada, Nar Narayana, Kapila. Like this, he goes on and on and on. The 19th incarnation, which he mentions, is Balaram, the elder brother of Lord Krishna. Then in 20th, he says Krishna himself. Krishna is not an incarnation. He is the Supreme Lord himself. And then, after mentioning these 20 names, he mentions two more names, 21st and 22nd. While he mentioned the first 20 names, he did it in the past tense. Means these incarnations have already appeared. But while he mentions the names 21st and 22nd, he does it in the future tense, that these incarnations are going to come. They have not yet come. So he mentions 21st name as Lord Buddha, and then the 22nd name as Lord Kalki. Quite interesting. Does this information match with the historical account? Yes, it does match. Srimad Bhagavatam, as recorded in the book, was spoken by Suta Goswami around 5,000 years ago. And from historical account, Lord Buddha appeared somewhere around 2,500 years ago. So if you look at time, then yes, when Suta Goswami was explaining about it, it was a prophecy. It was something that was going to happen in the future. And that's why he was taking the future tense. So it matches very much with the account that he gives. The shloka which he mentions to speak about Lord Buddha is here on the screen. Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 3rd chapter, shloka number 24. Tataha kalau sampravritte sammohaya suradvisham buddho namna anjana sutaha kikateshu bhavishyati. Very simple shloka. Here what is explained by him? Tataha, thereafter. Thereafter means after the 20th incarnation. Kalau sampravritte. Kalau sampravritte means in the beginning of Kali Yuga. Kalau means Kali and sampravritte in the beginning. So in the beginning of the age called Kali Yuga, what happened? Sammohaya suradvisham. In order to bewilder, sammohaya. Moha means illusion. Sammoha means complete illusion. So to completely bewilder, confuse whom? Suradvisham. Sura is the name used for the demigods or those who are saintly, who are believers in God. The theists are called Sura. Dvisham means those who are envious. So basically Sura Dvisham refers to those who are non-godly or non-saintly. The atheist class of people, the non-believers. In order to bewilder, confuse the non-believers, he appeared. Who appeared? Buddho namna anjana sutaha. Buddho, named Buddha, his name was Buddha, Buddha namna anjana sutaha. He's the son of Anjana. He's the son of Anjana. Kikateshu bhavishyati. Kikateshu bhavishyati. Bhavishyati means in the future he's going to appear, will take place. Kikateshu is the place. So in this shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam, the time of the appearance of Lord Buddha, the name of Lord Buddha, the name of the mother of Lord Buddha, the place where Lord Buddha appears, and what he does, everything is given. It's a complete introduction to him. So Kikateshu refers to the place which in the modern days is called Bihar. It's a province of Gaya in Bihar. In the modern times, actually that town comes in Nepal and is called Lumbini. It's still there in Nepal. It's on the border of Nepal and Bihar. Lumbini. So that's considered as the birthplace of Lord Buddha. A brief account of his life. As we must have read in our school days, he was the son of a king and he had a very royal upbringing. So at the time of his birth, 4 angels appeared and they prophesies that this child, he is going to become very glorious. He's going to do something that's going to help the world, and he's going to become an agent who will redeem the world, who will uplift the world, the consciousness of the people of this world. That was broadcasted at the time of his birth. And later on, it does happen that Buddha, his life story is quite interesting. We'll not get into that. Maybe another session we'll discuss that. So he goes through some experiences. He wants to know about the truth of life. And then he performs austerity. Later on, sitting under a Bodhi tree, the knowledge is revealed to him. Because he becomes enlightened, sitting below a Bodhi tree, so he gets the name Buddha. But Buddha also means the one who is enlightened, one who knows. Lord Krishna used the same word in Bhagavad Gita also. In chapter 10, shloka number 8, Lord Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavaha mataha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samannitah. An intelligent person who knows that I am the source of everything, material and spiritual, he worships me with complete dedication and devotion. So this word Buddha means one who knows, one who is enlightened, one who is intelligent. So Lord Buddha gets that name, and then after he becomes enlightened, of course, when you learn something good, you like to share it with others. You want to teach others. So to his disciples, he gives the first sermon on Dharma. And where does he do that? He does it in a place called Saranath. It's in Uttar Pradesh, 10 kilometers away from Varanasi. So that's the place where he first gave his teaching. And these teachings are called the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, four universal truths of Lord Buddha. What are they? What are these Four Noble Truths? So these Four Noble Truths are: first, dukkha; second, samudaya; third, nirodha; fourth, marga. These are the four things which he teaches them. First, dukkha; second, samudaya; third, nirodha; fourth, marga. These are the first teachings of Lord Buddha on the subject of Dharma. What are they? Individually, let's try to understand them. Dukkha. Dukkha is a very simple word. We commonly use it in Hindi language in India and also in some other languages. It's coming from Sanskrit. So the first truth is the truth of suffering. Lord Buddha says, this is a universal truth, that this world is full of suffering. There is suffering in this world. Who can deny this truth? No one. Any sane man will accept it. That yes, rich or poor, old or young, man or woman, educated or uneducated, Indian or non-Indian, everyone in this world has gone through experiences of suffering, is going through and will go through the experiences of suffering. So that's the truth of this world. Lord Buddha says this is the first truth. This everyone should know and everyone should accept and understand. And that's the reality which Krishna also presents in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in many different places about the nature of this world. So he says in 8.15, Mam upetya tu punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam. While defining and describing this world, he gives two qualities of this world, or two characteristics. And what are they? Dukkhalayam and ashashvatam. Dukkhalayam means it's a place full of miseries. Alaya means house or abode. Like in Hindi, we have these words called pustakalay, vridhalay, vidyalay, himalay. So alay means house. And dukkha alaya means a house of suffering. So Lord Krishna is saying this world is dukkhalaya. And he also says, now, who can tell better about this world than Lord Krishna? It's quite interesting. We should try to understand this, that any person who creates something, he or she knows the best what that thing is and how that thing operates. You go to a market, you buy an electronic gadget. Who can best describe what are the features of that gadget, how to use that gadget, What are the characteristics of this gadget? What is the lifespan of this gadget? The manufacturer of that gadget. No one can do it better than them. So they give you a manual, a user manual, and that explains, okay, this gadget has this much lifespan and it has to be used in this way. If you don't use it in this way, it's going to get spoiled. Be careful. Many things like that. Likewise, because God, Lord Krishna, created this world, he can only best explain what is the nature of this world, how this world is. So he says, Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This world is Dukkhalaya. It's a place of miseries. And then further he says, very interestingly, further he says what? He says that, now someone may say, okay, I understand, I agree that this world is a place of suffering. It's a Dukkhalaya. But what's wrong? I mean, we can become used to suffering. You are going through a particular experience of suffering, and then, in due course of time, you can just get used to it and it won't bother you anymore, because now you are, it's normal for you. But then Krishna says that, you see, even the suffering is temporary in the sense that the nature of the suffering keeps on changing. You go through a particular suffering experience and you think, fine, now I'll be used to it. Lord Krishna says, no. Next, what will happen? Ashashvatam. The suffering will change, and then you will have to again be into anxiety, trouble, things like that in order to face that suffering. So he explains that this is not just the one place. Another place in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, shloka 33, he mentions the same qualities in different words. He says this world is asukham, no sukh, anityam, not eternal, it's temporary. And furthermore, he says, now someone may say, okay, fine, maybe if I go to a better place in this world, I'll be happy. I'm suffering because I'm in India, and India is a poor country. So maybe if I go to America, I'll be very happy. Someone may say, this whole planet Earth is a place of suffering. Let me go to the planet of the demigods. I've read about them. They are very happy people. They have so much of wealth, they are always young, and they don't get disease, and the men have beautiful women to enjoy, and the beautiful women have men to enjoy, and they have pleasurable gardens and things like that. So Lord Krishna says, hey, listen, in this material world, any place you go to the highest place also. Brahma bhuvana loka punar avartinarjuna. Even if you go to Brahma loka, the highest destination in this world, that place is also made up of suffering. From that highest place to the lowest planet, there is only misery in this world where repeated birth and death takes place. This is how Lord Krishna advertises his creation. This is my creation. This is how my material creation is. Same thing is spoken by the sages in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's mentioned by Shukdev Goswami, Padam Padam Yat Vibatam Natesham. In this world, every single step that we take, what happens? What's the nature of that step? It's a step of danger. Padam Padam Yat Vipadam. Every step you take, there's going to be some danger in that. So such problems are enlisted, and such nature is described in Bhagavad Gita. The sufferings in this world. Lord Krishna says, no one likes to suffer, but there are some sufferings which we cannot avoid, which cannot escape. Like which one? Four of them are mentioned. Janma, Mrityu, and what happens between Janma and Mrityu? Jara, Vyadhi. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Birth, death. And between these two, what? Old age and disease. Four things no one wants, no one likes, but still no one can avoid. A young man will get old. However amount of cosmetics we may use, surgeries we may go through, and anything we might do, we are going to get old. We may turn our gray hairs into black hairs or brown hair, red hairs, but still that doesn't mean that we become young. We are still old. Similarly, everyone dies. So these are sufferings which we don't like, but we need to experience them for sure. Now, this truth is very easy to understand, accept, but still there are people who don't want to accept this truth. If you tell them this place is a place of suffering, they'll say, oh, come on, you are too pessimistic, you're too negative. Be a bit positive, you know. We agree there is bad in this world, but there's also good in this world. Why are you so obsessed about the bad that is there? Why such ideas are there, concepts are there? There are many reasons for that. First, people are ignorant. They don't know about the true nature of this world, and they don't even want to know. Second, they have a false hope that someday we will become fully happy in this world. Someday will come in our life that our sufferings will be zero. We have this false hope. You know, one day, kabhi na kabhi wo din aayega, you know, someday it will come and I'll be fully happy here. Then there's another misunderstanding which people have due to concepts in their philosophy, in their religious beliefs, that God created this world for my enjoyment. You know, they think like that. God made this world and he sent me here so that I could be happy here. I'm God's child. This is God's creation. It is his property. So just like a child enjoys the property of the father, or they also think like a child spoils the property of the father, and in that way he enjoys. Similarly, we can do whatever we want to do to be happy in this world. That's wrong. God did not create this world for our enjoyment. He created this world for his enjoyment. So we need to understand the purpose first. Why did he create? And the last thing is that because of living a very sinful life, a life full of activities which were, influenced by a mode of ignorance and passion, which were to cause harm to others and not do good to others, their consciousness, their feelings, their ability to be sensitive becomes so dull that though they are suffering, they don't realize they are suffering. In fact, some of them, they start taking suffering as happiness. That's so sad, that's so unfortunate, that though they are suffering, they think, I am very, very happy. That's illusion. Taking the example of smoking cigarette. I mean, someone who's smoking cigarette, that person is killing himself, spoiling the lung, spoiling the throat, spoiling the lips, everything in the body. But that person thinks, I am happy. This is very, very cool. But this is not cool. You are a fool. You are doing something which is going to harm you. So this illusion is there. This covering is there on our, consciousness, on our ability to be aware. And we start taking the wrong thing as the right thing. We don't understand that we are suffering. We become so used to it. So we become so numb that even if we are suffering, we take it, okay, it's fine. That's okay. No problem at all. Someone raised an hand. Do you have a question? No? Fine. Okay, so then the next thing, Lord Buddha says, fine, now you understand that there is suffering in this world. This is the first truth about this world, that this world is a place of suffering. So after you have accepted it, let's go to the next truth of this world. And what is that next truth about this world? That is the next step. The really intelligent people will go to the next truth, and that is samudaya. What is samudaya? Lord Buddha says, there is suffering, accepted. Now everything has a cause. So the suffering should also have a cause. Samudaya means to understand the truth of origin of suffering, that this suffering has a cause. There is an origin factor for this suffering. And what is that origin factor? Lord Buddha says, first of all, try to understand that there is a cause. Inquire about it. Vedanta Sutra, the end of all Vedic knowledge, says in its one of the first aphorisms, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Athato Brahma Jigyasa means you inquire. Now you have a body where you have intelligence. You should inquire. Then you will come to know why there's suffering. Okay, there is a question from one participant. I'm going to answer this at the end of the discussion. Let's continue with the flow. It's a nice question, but we'll answer it later. Thank you. So Vedanta Sutra says, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. We should inquire. we should inquire about Vedanta Sutra. From Vedanta Sutra, we should inquire about why am I suffering? I don't want to suffer, still I have to suffer. And who is responsible for suffering? Is it someone else or is it me? And if it's me, why me? Why should I suffer? Your question is quite much related to the point we are discussing now, and hopefully you'll get the answer also. So Lord Buddha says, many different people think they are suffering because of different reasons. One reason could be because I don't have sufficient amount of wealth, sufficient amount of material love, sufficient amount of friends and family members and achievements and successes and things like that. That's why I suffer. I don't have sufficient good clothes, whatever. So I don't have enough, or I don't have much of what people have. I lack materially. That's why I'm suffering. That's one of the reasons that they may give. Other people may think I suffer because of others. It's because of others. They are troubling me. They are torturing me. They are putting problems in my life. They are creating obstacles in my life. I'm not growing because of them. So it's because of them that I suffer. So if we want to put the cause of suffering upon others, it's because of them. I'm a very good man. I don't do anything wrong to anyone, but I suffer because of them. So others, they cheated me, they blame me, things like that. Then someone may say, I suffer because, God and my life have not been fair with me. I tried so hard to do whatever I had to do. I was very hardworking student. I was a very sincere and responsible and obedient child. And when I got married, I was also a very good husband or wife. I was very honest at my job, and everything I did was good. I was also religious. I was going to temple often. I was doing religious activities. But God and my life has not been very fair with me. They're unjust towards me. God cheated me, or my life cheated me, basically. So that's why I'm suffering. And someone may say, it's just because of bad luck. Bad days, good days will also come when the stars will change in my horoscope. And so one day the sun will shine on my side also. I'll become a happy person. Everyone has his day. I will also have my day. Things like that. Lord Buddha, he says, what's the cause of suffering? It's not that God wants us to suffer and he created this place as a place of suffering. Basically, we suffer. We came to this world because we wanted to come first. Second, we suffer because of our own desires, known as lust, our tendency to enjoy in the wrong way. That's what makes us suffer. So he says two things, lust and desire. Whose lust and desire? My lust and desire. Because of that, I suffer. In Bhagavad Gita, at many different places, Lord Krishna explains the same thing. In chapter 13, 21 shloka, Lord Krishna says, Purushaha sukha dukkhanam bhoktritve hetur uchyate. Purushaha means the living entities, sukha dukkhanam bhoktritve hetur uchyate. Because they want to enjoy, that's why they go through the experience of some kind of material happiness and material distress. Another reason why we suffer is because of misidentification. Today I had shared a quote. I do that almost every day since the last 1.5 years. So that quote said something about identification. We become what we identify with. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, because we misidentify ourselves with the material body, we go through material experience. And the material experience means basically the experience of suffering with small coating of some happiness, some happiness just to attract us towards that thing. But basically it is suffering wrapped in the wrapper of some glittering happiness. How? Why misidentification leads to that? Let me give one example for that. A small story. Once in a village, a small village town, there lived a very rich man. a big businessman who had big savings and a very, very huge bungalow, and that entire bungalow was made up of wood. He had a big family, 4 sons and grandchildren and things like that. So this man, because of some work, he has to go out of his house, go out of the town, village town. But while going out, he tells his sons that, you see, when I'm out, do find someone who can pay a good price for this house. I want to sell this house because, now we have been living here for a long time. We should shift to some other place, have a new house and things like that. The son says, okay, father, as you say. So when the father is out, these sons find someone, a very wealthy person who is an interested buyer. So they inform the father, write to him that we found someone and he's ready to pay a big amount for the house. In fact, he's ready to pay much more than what we expected. So should we go for the deal? The father says, of course, no need to ask about it. Go ahead. And the father gives the blessing, the permission. The sons, they have a bond, the deal with the buyer. After a few days, the father comes home, he's entering into the village town, and from far, it's evening time, almost becoming night. He sees this huge blazing fire in the direction of his house. So he walks, and then he reaches that place, and he sees there are hundreds of people gathered there looking at the house, his house, which is burning down. And this person is looking at the house and is smiling. No, those who were gathered there, they saw him and they were confused. Sir, your house is burning. It's your entire life's saving, and you are smiling. What happened to you? The man said, actually, it's a long story, but it's okay, fine, it's burning. What is going on in the mind of that person? My son has already sold the house. It's no longer my house. We have already sold it to someone. We have got the money, and this is that person's property. So it's burning. It's not my house. Fine, who cares? While he was there peacefully watching the sight, one of his sons comes running and says, Father, we did not expect you to be here, but this is a bad news for all of us. Why are you not disturbed? Our house is burning and we all are panicked, and you are so calm and cool. And the father says, you did the deal, right? I said, we did the deal, but actually he never made the payment, we just did the deal. He has not paid us anything. And then when the father hears that, that smile flies away. He becomes sad. Tears started rolling down the cheeks, and he's crying soberly, bitterly. Why? Because now he knows that the house is mine and it's burning down. Now he's identifying with the house. And while he's crying, another son comes running there and says, Father, don't worry, don't cry. Hey, brother, don't worry. This man is such a genuine person, so honest. When he came to know that the house is getting burned, and I met him, he said, you see, I promised you that day that this house is mine. I'm going to take it. Though I did not pay for it, I promised you. So if it's burning now, it's my bad karma. It's not your karma. I'll pay you the entire amount. Don't worry. And when the father hears that, he's again normal, again peaceful. Why? Because he has all the money now. So in this story, what do we understand? Because of identification with something, we go through the experience of suffering or happiness. Because we are pure spirit souls, but we misidentify ourselves with this body, this material covering. Whatever experience this body goes through, we take that as my experience. And because this body is made up of matter, and this world is made in such a way it goes through continuous change, we always have experiences of suffering. How? That's how the material activities are designed. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita in another shloka, 5.22, Yehi sansparsha ja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. What does he say? He says, when these senses, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the skin, they come in touch, contact, some sparsha. They come in contact with their sense objects. Eyes, they come in contact with some beautiful form. Ears come in contact with some nice music. Tongue comes in contact with some tasty item and things like that. When they come in contact with the sense objects, that experience is the birthplace. Birthplace of what? Dukkha. ये ही संस्पर्श जाप होगा दुख योनय evate. It's the birthplace of dukkha. Why is the birthplace of dukkha? Because once you get that happiness, hankering for that happiness increases, but that object cannot give us so much of happiness as much we desire. And because of this unfulfilled desires, this great hankering, we suffer. We suffer. So that's the reason people suffer. We can see that in this world, whatever may be our material situation, people end up in suffering. I gave this example last time. Again, I would like to give it today. Example of a very popular person. I'm sure you must have heard his name, Michael Jackson. Who might not have heard his name? I mean, he was one of the most he is one of the most celebrated celebrities in the world, most famous celebrities. In the media world, he was famous for almost 40 decades. That is almost throughout his life. From the age of 5, he entered into media industry, and he was considered as the king of pop. I mean, when he was doing shows, millions of people would gather to attend his shows, and they would cry, and they were ready to give their lives for Michael Jackson. Billions of fans, billions of followers, billions of dollars he earned, hundreds of awards, Grammy awards, many Guinness World Records in his name. And at present also now, Michael Jackson, I don't exactly remember the year, but it was some time back, maybe 8-10 years back, when he left his body. But at present also, just by his name and by the albums, records he made and the things he did, he is earning millions of dollars or rupees. Imagine, here is a person who is dead, he's gone, but his name is earning him millions of dollars at present. At present, he's earning much more than many people who are alive and they are earning. He's dead, but he's earning so much. And his income increases every year. You want to know the exact stats, go to Google and search it out. It gives you the stats, how much he's earning. But what happened to his life? Such a famous person, materially successful person, what not he had. I mean, he could have had anything he wanted. But broken family, loneliness, right? He was so lonely that it said in his house, he used to keep mannequins. You know what mannequin is? I'm sure you must be knowing. You go to any clothes shop where they sell different kind of dresses of man and woman. So they dress up a doll, So that doll is called mannequin. So he would keep mannequins in his house to just feel that, okay, there are people around me. And when he would go out of his house, he would disguise himself. He would never go out as Michael Jackson. Sometimes this get up, sometimes that get up, so that people don't know him. And when he died, he admitted, I am so lonely. Why he died? He was so unhappy with his life that he told his doctor that you give me an overdose of sedatives, drugs, and because of that, I'll die. So much of pain. At the age of 51, he left this world. Unfortunate for him, because though some devotees from Hare Krishna movement, ISKCON, had contacted him, given him a copy of Bhagavad Gita and other books of Srila Prabhupada, told him about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Maha Mantra, he did not take it seriously. He could not take it seriously. And he just finished his life like this. So Lord Buddha says, because of this greed of power, pleasure, material success, we suffer. The cause is our desire. So what could be the next truth then? What to do? Should we just fold our hands and accept the truth and keep on suffering? Like someone may say, God is so cruel that he made this world for us to suffer, and perpetually we suffer. And eternal hell, eternal suffering? No, not Buddha says. Because there is a cause, you can work towards the solution of that cause. And if you work towards the solution of that cause, then there won't be any suffering. So the third truth, which is present by Lord Buddha, is the truth of the truth of cessation of suffering. Cessation of suffering means finishing the suffering, called Nirodha, the truth of Nirodha. Nirodha. Desire, this material desire, lust is the cause of suffering, so these desires can be transcended. We can overcome those desires. We can become free from the bondage of suffering. Just like these birds, when they were within a cage, they were suffering. But when the cage was set open and the birds flew out, they became free, then they could enjoy life. Similarly, we are bound by suffering, but if we release ourselves from this engagement of material body, material desires, we can end up suffering. So this process is also known as nirvana, very popular term for the followers of Buddhism or those who are interested in meditation and modern yoga. They talk a lot about nirvana. Nirvana basically means to get rid of material desires. In their words, they would say to become desireless. However, we have a different understanding. No one can become desireless. We always have desires. We have to change the nature of the desires. We have to turn material desires into spiritual desires. So Bhagavad Gita also speaks the same, that because of material desires, we suffer. So we need to overcome those desires. And that's what Lord Buddha also says, that we need to let go, we need to let go our material desires. And how do we do that? First, we need to become aware that this desire is wrong. Then we need to regulate it. Regulate it means, you try to gradually bring it down, slow it down, reduce it, gradually, by gradual process. And that's the entire plan of all the teachings given in all the scriptures, whether these scriptures belong to Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Jainism, whatever. Any religious teaching, if it is a true religious teaching, the purpose of that teaching is to help us become more and more detached from material life and attached to spiritual existence. Detached from temporary and become attached to permanent. Detached from a place of suffering and become attached to a place of eternal bliss and joy. So here, that's the whole plan of the Vedas. And that's why the Vedas, they emphasize a lot on tapasya. They emphasize a lot on rules and regulation, do's and don'ts. Why? Because of doing this, we are able to regulate, we are able to reduce our tendency to enjoy in the wrong way. Tapasya is for that. Rules are also for that. If you don't understand this purpose, following the rules, doing the tapasya will be very, very frustrating for us because we don't know why we are doing that. But when we understand that, then it becomes easily possible and easily acceptable. So we need to regulate. How we regulate it? You don't regulate by increasing it. Some people, they have a misconception, misunderstanding. Let me take the name also, it doesn't matter. There was a person quite popular when he was alive, and now also many people follow him. His name was Rajneesh Osho. So his teaching was that you over-enjoy, and when you over-enjoy, one day you're going to become frustrated. And then you will understand, okay, this world is a place of suffering. But this is not so true. People who have enjoyed too much also are always in the illusion that this place is a place of happiness. I can have more and more and more and more and more. So they speak like some books, the samadhi, you enjoy and enjoy and enjoy, and then later on you enter into transcendence. But Narad Muni, who is a very pure saint, a realized soul, he says that, he gives an example. He says, there's a fire burning, and you put ghee into that fire. What will happen? That ghee is going to increase the fire. It's not going to reduce the fire. Similarly, we already have this tendency, wrong tendency. And if we are going to feed that tendency is going to increase. not decrease it. Srila Prabhupada, he gives a very beautiful example. In one of the small books by him, he says, someone has fever, 101 degree. The normal body temperature is 98.6. The fever is 101. Now, if you want to reduce the fever, you have to do things which will reduce the fever. But if you do things which will increase the fever, that's not going to reduce the fever. Now, if you start eating those stuff which will increase the fever, then the temperature is going to rise up more, and that fever may become a fatal disease, a critical disease that one person may die also. The purpose of life is to reduce this material temperature, not increase it. So all the instructions given in all the scriptures, all the rules and regulations are meant for this purpose, that we reduce, we bring it down, this tendency, this cause of our suffering. So Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says in chapter 6, shloka number 17, Yukta ahara viharasya, Yukta cheshtasya karmasu, Yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. In a yukta, in a regulated fashion, one should eat, one should sleep, one should work, one should enjoy, one should recreate, and that kind of yogic life will dukkhaha. Dukkhaha means will slay down, will kill, will cut down all our suffering, will finish our suffering. Regulated life, regulated activity. So after Lord Buddha has explained about this, then the next thing which he wants to tell is, he spoke about the cessation of material desires. So then he gives a path, the steps. The fourth truth is the truth of marga, the truth of the path. You need to walk the path, not just talk about the path, understand the path, but we need to do what we learn, practice it, practically apply. So this is the means to overcome. And what is that? He teaches a path which has 8 steps. So he calls that as the 8-fold path. 8 steps are there. What are these 8 steps? These 8 things are right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Total 8, right? These are the 8 different things which he speaks about. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks the same thing, but he summarizes all of that into one word, and that is sattva. The Buddhists, they call it as bodhisattva. As per them, this is the time when they become enlightened. And Lord Krishna speaks something very similar. Sattva sanjayate jnanam. When there is goodness, sattva, that's when enlightenment comes. Sattvam sanjayate jnanam. Knowledge comes from goodness. So Krishna summarizes it in one word, that this is what we need to do. We need to live a very, very sattvic life, a life of goodness. So he explains the path of bhakti, the highest path in Bhagavad Gita. What is that path? That we should eat, whatever we eat, that should be pure, a food offered to the Lord. We should sleep for not more than 6 to 7 hours, and that's regulated sleep. We should also not work too much. We should work sufficient enough to maintain our body, and we should have ample amount of time to practice spiritual life, and we should make progress in Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. So engaging in bhakti, we can easily overcome these wrong tendencies caused by the 3 modes of material nature. The 3 modes are like the shackles which bind us to the world. So Krishna says, Janma mrityu jara dukhe vimukto amritam ashnute. If we try to come to sattva and then go beyond sattva, we'll become free from all the miseries, all the sufferings by engaging in bhakti, devotional service. The same conclusion is very beautifully explained by Shukdev Goswami in this shloka. It comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, shloka number 58 of chapter 14. Samashitaye padapallavaplavam mahatpadam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsaha padam parang padam yat vipadam natesham. The last line of this was quoted by me in the beginning of the class. Padam padam yat vipadam natesham. The full shloka is Samashrita ye pad pallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam. This world, he says, this world is a place of suffering. How much suffering? It's an ocean of suffering. Huge ocean. The biggest ocean on this planet is also not as big as the ocean of suffering of this world. That's how big it is. So that much big ocean is there. But for someone who takes shelter of the Lord Krishna, who's also known as Murari, the killer of the demon Mura, the enemy of Mura, if one takes shelter of that Supreme Lord, then what happens? For that person, what happens? This huge ocean of suffering becomes as small as the puddle, created by the hoof print of a calf. A calf, the baby, the child of a cow, it's very small. And the footprint of that calf is too small. How much amount of water can come in that hoof print? Very little amount. And what is the size of that puddle created by that hoof print? A very small size. Even a small frog can jump over that. And when it comes to a human being, he does not even have to observe that puddle. He can just walk over it and cross it. Right? It becomes so easy. So Shukdev Goswami says, if we take to devotional service of Lord Krishna, bhakti, the truth of the path, the path of overcoming suffering, then this ocean of suffering will become like a small puddle, and we can just walk over it and cross over that ocean and become eternally joyful, eternally happy. Then we can enter from this place, which is Dukhalaya, to another place, which is Anand Alaya, Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means a place where there is no anxiety, no suffering, material suffering. So we enter from the place of Kuntha, Dukhalaya, to the place of Vaikuntha, Ananda Alaya. In that way, we make a life completely successful. So these are the 4 noble truths given by Lord Buddha. I hope you could understand this session. Now we have some questions here, so I'll start answering them. If someone else also has a question, they can kindly ask. So the first question is, I hope that is already answered, but still I'll repeat it. If this world is for suffering and God has made it for his pleasure, then is God evil? No, God does not say you have to suffer only. God gives us a choice. He says, you live like this, you will suffer. If you live like this, you will not suffer. So it's a place which is made for reformation. If we choose to allow ourselves to be reformed, the suffering will not be suffering for us. That will be seen as an opportunity for us to get out of this world. But if we see this place as a place for enjoyment, means we are in illusion, we take it in the wrong way, then we'll suffer. The problem is in our perception, in our outlook. If I use something in a wrong way and I become frustrated, it was my mistake, not the thing's mistake. Similarly, God has made this world for a certain purpose. But when we wrongly understand that this world is made for my pleasure, then we suffer. But if we understand that the world is made for God's pleasure and we cooperate with that, then we'll not suffer. So the choice is with us. The choice with us. How do we place ourselves in the world? He's not like a dictator who says, you do the way I want, or else you just suffer. He is like a concerned parent who is concerned about one's child. The child is gone away from the right path, and the parent is trying to reform the child to come back to the right path. So in that process of reformation, there is some punishment, and that punishment is called suffering. Okay, thank you for that question. Next is how to take up shelter of Lord Krishna. Very simple. First of all, we should have faith in the teachings of Lord Krishna. Then we should be willing to follow the instructions of Lord Krishna. By following the instructions of Lord Krishna, you're taking his shelter. If I say I obey someone, how do I obey that person? I do what that person asks me to do. So Lord Krishna has given beautiful instructions in Bhagavad Gita. His devotees have given so many instructions which are based on the teachings of Lord Krishna. When we follow those instructions, that means we align ourselves with Krishna's will, we are taking shelter of Lord Krishna. We are depending on Lord Krishna. But when we do what we want to do going against his desires, then we are acting independently of Lord Krishna. So we are not taking his shelter. To take shelter of someone means I depend on that person. I do what that person thinks is good for me and knows that it's good for me. So I depend on that person. But when I do what I think is good, which is not actually good for me, and I go against what the person who knows what is good for me is, I go against that person, then I am independent of that person. To take shelter of Lord Krishna means to willingly, voluntarily, happily decide that yes, till now, I have been the master of my life. I did whatever I wanted to do without considering what is right, what is wrong, based on the instructions given by the Supreme Lord. Now I choose to follow what God says. That's as simple as that. We take shelter of Krishna. In our heart we agree to follow him, to follow his teachings, to follow his good advice. That is shelter. That is ashray. Okay? I hope we could answer your questions. If any other question, then please let us know. If it's done from your end, then I would like to conclude this session. It seems there is no more question. All right, thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much.